22 West.
We are 22S Radio. 22S Radio is 22smedia.com and 88.1 FM KKJZ HD3 Long Beach, Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Golden Spotlight. We are broadcasting live from California State University, Long Beach. If this is your very first time listening to the show, the Golden Spotlight is basically a biography show. That's right, pretty much. I have my guest who, each week I have a different guest, and usually sometimes it'll be from a different profession, and pretty much have them share their story to inspire other students. So at this time, I would like my guest to please introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, good evening. My name is Patricia Castro, and I am a professional freelance makeup artist in Los Angeles, and I'm really excited to be here. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. So I like to start off step by step, starting off, like I said, I remember I mentioned in the email that one time I provided some example questions to a guest, and it was something because I didn't know they were going to write their whole life somehow in one paper. You should see a little tiny little notebook. I don't know how she did it. She wrote her whole life a little bit.
Oh my
gosh.
A
little paragraph. I'm like, and we're on camera and everything. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, I was just like, hi, introduce yourself. Like, what's your name? What's your title? And we'll get to all that other stuff in a bit. She said her whole life somehow, and
that's so
this is
funny.
what I did, this is where I grew up, this is where I got my degree, this is what I'm doing now, and that's it. And it's like, it's only in the first minute.
Okay, thank you. She came prepared.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's so cool. I was like, oh, okay. And yeah, I have cameras here, and
Awesome.
I set up the show, and I like to have interaction too with our audience. Just another extra string that I have on the side.
This is so cool.
And
I'm gonna wave.
Yeah. So yeah, I start off step by step. The first is just life growing up. Did you grow up with siblings? What was that like, your childhood?
Oh, that's a good question. So I actually was born in Compton. I was born at the Martin Luther King Jr. Hospital. And I don't have any siblings. I'm an only child. It's really funny getting used to these. I'm going to keep one. There we go.
I can only imagine Christmas must have been so awesome being an only child.
Oh, yeah. It was half awesome and half kind of lonely. I remember I have a lot of cousins, but I'm the first cousin of 11. So I was the only one for a while, and then they kind of started trickling in. And I just wanted my house to be filled with family every holiday, because if it was just the three of us, my parents and I was really sad. I was just really, really sad. But it's great now. Like I always tell people, I actually am glad that I'm an only child, because I just have the best relationship with my parents. And I feel like I wouldn't have been the best sharer of attention and love, maybe.
I remember my mom tells me stories that apparently I would tell my grandpa, I want a little brother or a little sister. And he goes, okay, we'll get one from Kmart.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, continue with life growing up. I go one step at a time. Tell me about elementary school. What was elementary school like?
Elementary school. Okay, so I went, this is still in Texas. Oh, okay, sorry, I just skipped forward there. So I was born in Compton, and I lived in Gardena growing up for the first 2 years of my life. I know I spent 1 year in Minnesota. I don't remember any of it. And then we moved to Texas, because I think my dad probably got a job there. So I started my school years in Houston, Texas, and I loved it. I feel like I had a great childhood. So I went to a Montessori, kind of kindergarten / I remember it was a kindergarten, but it also had first and second grade. And when I was in kindergarten, they thought I was kind of ahead. So they said, okay, Patricia can go ahead and start first grade. But then when I did first grade, I failed. So I ended up just being back on track with everything. Yeah, grade school was cool. I basically went to Catholic school my whole life, actually. But then I asked my mom, I think in 5th grade, I said, hey Mom, I really want to try the public school. I still remember it was called Lexington Creek Elementary School. So I tried it, and honestly, trying to pick out my outfit every day for public school drove me insane. I would have like temper tantrums every morning, so I went back to Catholic school and wore uniforms for the rest of my life.
Cool. I always ask my guests, what would you say was your favorite subject, and what was your least favorite?
Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to skip forward because as far as favorite subjects, I feel like I discovered my favorite subject in high school, and for some reason geometry was incredible to me. I just loved it. No other math, just geometry, just like solving for like the angles and the shapes and all that stuff. And I actually ended up being first in my class, and I was so proud of myself the first semester. I never got any awards like that. But then this kid named Kevin Vu, because after one semester was over, second semester they would jumble up the classes, like your whole schedule would be different, your whole class would be different. So I got first semester, and then Kevin Vu got transferred into my class second semester. And I was no longer first, because he was first. So Kevin Vu, if you're listening to this, I'm bitter.
Kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you ever watched Dexter. Remember when Mandark showed up?
No, I never got into that show, but I want to. Is it scary?
No, it was like Cartoon Network and
oh, that one!
Yeah.
Okay. I did watch that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Not consistently, though.
Yeah, Mandark was like...
I do love that show. That's a good one.
He was also, just as smart as them, and it was interesting, the little rivalry. It was pretty interesting.
Do you watch the other Dexter?
Which one?
The like really human one.
Oh, I've never seen it.
I've never seen that one either.
About the cartoon one.
Yeah, I've never seen that one either.
But yeah, that was really something. But I'm gonna take the first commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Cool.
Yeah, it goes by pretty quick.
How did you find me, Rob?
I like to find different professions, and I'll just mix the word out, and then a different profession. Or Long Beach, and then the profession.
Every day, 40 kids are diagnosed with cancer in the U.S., and only 3 new treatments have been FDA approved
it's funny
since the
because,
1970s.
my commercial, I'll play right now, you'll hear it, but
That's
I like to
where with
advertise
Purpose
that I do try to mix,
With Purpose
different
is a
professions,
youth-led movement
And this
dedicated to
particular
making sure
semester,
kids with cancer have access to safe and effective treatment
normally I had my
options.
show
We
every
need more
semester the
treatments
same
for
time of
kids.
day,
They
but
should have
I
the
had just
chance to
graduated
live
last
the life they
semester,
were given.
and
For more information,
the
visit
time frame that I wanted was not there at the
facebook.com/withpurposelb.
time, so I had to switch day and times.
Oh.
And normally I book my guests like weeks, months in advance.
Uh-huh.
So this is one of my promos. This is the
cool.
show before that. Get ready, because I'm tagging you in to tune in to 22S Radio every Monday night at 6 p.m. Pacific.
Oh, yeah!
As myself, Ralph Flores, James Williams, and Ethan Ortiz discuss everything related to the professional wrestling industry.
That was great! Yeah! Right to the kisser! Quiet, McMahon, I'm trying to watch this!
So don't miss a single episode of Beyond the Ropes. The next one's a commercial for this one. You'll hear different professions.
Quiet on the set. Can we please have quiet on the set?
Hey, I'm Rob Flores, the host of the Golden Spotlight. Join me every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific as I showcase a variety of guests.
I am what they refer to as an exoneree.
Hi, I'm Carla Perez, otherwise known as Rita Repulsa, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, a television series.
As people have told me before, like, you're really funny, you should try stand-up. And that's probably how every comedian starts.
Took an EMT course 6 months later, and the next thing I know, I was a firefighter.
I studied for a little while at the U.S. Institute of Peace.
Every week, someone steps into the spotlight and shares their story. You never know what we have in store on 22S Radio. So like I was saying, I usually
That's
book
really
them
cool.
weeks or
Program
months in
support
advance,
for
but since I had to
22S
switch
Radio
show
is
times and I was
provided
waiting
by
to find out
Turkish
the schedule
Airlines.
for the semester,
With 307
I was like, man, I
destinations
usually book
worldwide,
them all in advance
Turkish
because,
Airlines
like,
flies to
other professions are
124
probably
countries
super busy.
and
Yeah.
And I was
offers
like,
daily
oh, I
non-stop
guess
flights
what could be
from
the
Los
quickest thing
Angeles
to land? And
to
it was funny because this
Istanbul
semester I've
and
been
beyond.
booking comedians.
For more
That's
information,
really
so much
cool.
faster.
visit
Cool.
Find them,
TurkishAirlines.com.
so I'm like,
Right in your
finally
world.
I'm trying just one different type of profession to try to get into the semester show. Here we go.
We are 22 West Radio. 22 West Radio is 22westmedia.com, and 88.1 FM KKJZ HD3, Long Beach, Los Angeles.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Golden Spotlight. I'm your host, Rob Flores, here at California State University, Long Beach. And I'm back here with my guest. And, okay, so continuing on with education, middle school and high school, did you already have, like, certain, I know that you mentioned math was one of your favorite subjects.
Yeah.
And I find that very interesting because normally, I imagine, like, math being most people's, like, I don't know, for me it just scares me so much. Like, I remember the only equation I remember is math plus me equals slushy. Because numbers and symbols are like, no. But, it's funny. The hour goes by so fast. I have so many different questions I ask, but this is another funny one. Just because of pop culture, TV shows, movies, you know how when you see the shows or movies, you have, like, the lunch area. You have, like, the nerdy ones on one side, the sports ones on this one's playing Pokemon cards, all that. What did you associate with during lunch?
Oh, this is a good question. So, they definitely had that at my high school. Like, you could map out the lunch yard, tables. I ate lunch in the counselor's office. Yeah. I think it was a combination of, there was AC. There weren't that many tables at my high school, so a lot of people just ended up kind of like eating in this quad area of just flat asphalt, which sounds really terrible, but I mean it was decent. It's just where a lot of the school had to gather, and I just didn't like sitting there. And then I made a group of friends, and I kind of just kept to myself in high school, honestly. I feel like my senior year I really blossomed, but it took me like all the way up to my senior year to like really kind of get out of my shell. So yeah, I ate lunch in the counselor's office, and it was fantastic.
Cool.
I would do my homework.
Some would say, I don't know, junior or senior is the most stressful year. What was that like for you?
Ooh, so I think I did like a lot of my college research and some of my admissions, or what do you call it, when you're applying. I think I did that like junior year, and I had this, I had the goal to go to colleges, and I had studied so much. I talked to my counselors all the time about what colleges I could get into, what are your reach schools. I probably spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars of my parents' money applying to colleges, and then I decided that I didn't want to go, and I just went to a community college like a few miles from me. So yeah, it was pretty stressful, but now thinking about it, like, 10 years ago, I'm like, nah, that was nothing.
So, you mentioned how, you stick to yourself, for the most part and stuff. Did you get to partake, though, in, like, the senior activities and stuff, like prom and all that?
Yeah, I did actually. So, this is a good segue into my career because prom day was really special for me. My prom was like May 2009, and at the time I had been doing makeup for fun. I was not offering it as a service, but slowly my friends started to realize that I was really good at makeup. So by the time prom rolled around, I had 7, air quote, appointments booked. 7. And I still had to get myself ready. So I said, okay, like, Priscilla, come at 10:30, Berlin, come at 11:30. And that day was the day that I feel like I realized that I had kind of like discovered my passion. I had already been watching YouTube videos and like staying up really late, turning myself into Lady Gaga, all that fun stuff. But prom day, I mean, I was on my feet. I had consecutive appointments back to back. I loved every second of it. I didn't make a dime. None of my friends, paid me. I wasn't asking for any money. Got myself ready, did my updo, like, behind my head by myself, and I was like, wait a minute, that was really cool. So I also think that's why I decided that I wasn't really gonna, like, do the whole university college path, because I really wanted to pursue makeup artistry. But I'm actually full Filipino, so I come from like an Asian background, and just given some of the traditions and what I thought my parents like expected of me, I thought I needed to like become a nurse, basically, or a physician's assistant. Those were the careers that I was genuinely looking into at the time, medical. And then I said, oh crap, can I curse? Should I be careful? No? Okay, great. I'll be careful. I'm glad I asked. so I wanted to go to cosmetology school, but my parents said, no, you gotta get a degree first. And I said, ugh, I don't really want to. So I tried going to school for a while. I was actually a straight A student in high school, but I think it's because like the structure did me good, like putting on the uniform, going to school at 8 a.m. I would come home, do all my homework. I didn't have a life. Again, I was like sitting in the counselor's office, like focusing on all my academics, straight A student. And then college came around, and it was like, it's funny because walking around, I was like, whoa, like back to a really cool, like spacious college campus. But there was just like too much freedom. I think maybe I was kind of like, I was a little sheltered growing up. Which is fine. I think it was cool. But, 18, 19 comes around and you're taking yourself to school. You don't have to go to class. And the free spirit in me just, like, awoke. So I never finished college. I tried to go for, like, 4 or 5 years, just, like, trying to get classes to kind of show my parents that I was still going. But it just was not for me.
One of the questions I also ask my guests is, like, during the phase where you were, like, figuring out, like, what major and stuff you wanted, like, when you would bring them up to your parents, like, what was their reaction?
So to be honest, I'm a little bit impulsive / decisive. I like to make decisions, and sometimes I'll, like, kind of change the trajectory of my life pretty quick. So I think because I was an only child, and the Asian stuff, not to be super stereotypical, but there's a lot of, like, respect and honor that goes into, just, like, Asian family dynamics. And I was an only child, and my parents are lovely people, so I always kind of wanted to, like, make them proud. So I would express to them that the medical field was, like, cool with me, like, but really, deep down, I had kind of, like I said, the free spirit in me, the artist in me, kind of, like, it awoke. Am I using the right verb conjugation there? It awoke pretty fast after prom. So then all of a sudden I was just like, hey, I want to go to beauty school. And it kind of, I can understand from my parents' perspective that it kind of came out of nowhere. And, education's important. So they tried to push me in that direction. However, another thing that really fascinated me was psychology. So when I did apply to schools, I checked the psychology box. And I'm still super into personal development. I actually want to be a life coach. So yeah, still into it. Super into it.
No, I know my sister's going to be like, oh, this is so cool. You're finally doing something different of a type of career that you're interviewing.
Cool.
Because she happens to watch, like, certain YouTubers that are, like, doing makeup and stuff like that. There's even this, like, I forget his name, but he has, like, super short hair. And
James Charles.
And he, like, works at, like, the mall makeup stores and stuff like that. But it's something because she watches these YouTubers that sometimes, occasionally, they'll do makeup stuff, but then there's some where they're less, like, having fun and, like, eating with their friends, like fast food.
A mukbang.
Yes. She watches those, like, all the time and stuff like that. So I know there'll probably be some questions that my sister would probably, want you to address probably too, because she's been interested. She's kind of gone through that type of stuff where she's like, yes, I'm going to college, but at the same time, that's the avenue I want to go to. So definitely, what are some things that maybe you would like to tell my sister?
Yeah, what's your sister's name?
Angelissa.
Angelissa?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a beautiful name. Hi, Angelissa, if you're listening to your brother's podcast. I would just say, like, honestly, follow your heart. Try to find balance in your life. Continue with your academic goals if that's what makes you happy and if that's what you think is going to provide, support for you. But if you're ready to kind of, like, work really hard, I think that's what a lot of people need to hear, is that follow your heart, but also be prepared that you're going to have to work really, really hard. And it might even be... So for me, I've been kind of going through this chapter in my career where I'm understanding the sides of choosing your passion as a job, and it's a blessing and a curse. The blessing is, you can find any quote in the world that says, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That's not true. It's not true. You're going to work really hard some days, and in fact, you're probably going to take the ups and downs of... I don't really feel like this word applies to me. Personally, I don't use it to describe myself, but I'll use it here. The ups and downs of, like, entrepreneurship or, like, starting your own business, you're going to take it so personally, and it can hurt more, but you'll also experience like higher highs and lower lows, because when you choose to, focus on your passion as your career, you're going to feel all the feels, man. You really are. So that's what I would say.
I always get excited once I'm about to, interview my guests and stuff, because there's so many questions that pops up. But commercial breaks always help me once again be like, oh, let's chat some more, and we'll figure out what we're going to talk about after. So I'm going to play the second commercial, because we have to play two commercial breaks. We'll be right back.
This broadcast
How old
is
is your
brought to you
sister?
She's
by the
already
Osher
18,
Lifelong
but
Learning
it's interesting because
Institute.
I've never really been
If you
into
are
horror
50 and
stuff,
older,
and for some reason she's like super into
offers
horror
more
films
than
and all that stuff.
80
I just feel like today's
8
horror
sessions,
films are more
both on campus or at a
so much gore.
Do you think she
and-
wants to do special
Yeah,
effects?
she's
Joy of learning
thinking
with
about
life.
that.
That's amazing.
And
There
it's
are no
something
tests,
because I
no
look at like
grades.
the description of
Learn
like
more,
classes like that, and the
age less,
makeup kits
with
sound
all
super expensive. and
Osher
stuff
They really
like that.
are, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that'll definitely be
More
something
information,
I know she
visit
probably
It's
wants
not
to talk
cheap.
about too.
Yeah.
OLLI. Go Beach.
Okay, Nene, tell us, what is your favorite 22 West radio
I know
show?
my sister was going through a phase, and she's like, school, I just don't know yet. I go,
Wrong
Yeah.
answer,
and it's like,
Nene.
I don't know, it was
Try
like
again.
a struggle to convince her.
Did you play the Ollie ad?
Wrong answer.
Yeah, the Ollie one.
It's Otaku
That's commercial, I can't play
Hourly.
it on the
Otaku
Oh, yeah?
Hourly.
Oh, I didn't
But
know.
then the discrepancy log.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
those
can
are for
listen
sports
to Otaku
broadcasts.
Hourly at 22 West Media.
Just give you a heads up.
Okay.
Wednesdays
You're not
at
gonna
9
want
Just
p.m.
certain color ones, or
So on the log,
yeah,
you'll see
there's
what
no
you
log
play.
today on there.
It's generally PSA promo ID.
Okay.
Just give you a heads up.
Okay.
Hallihallöchen.
Not
That was a
everyone knows
quick
it,
way
that's
to
the
say
problem.
hello in German. You will learn more of that if you join my show So Deutsch every Thursday from 12 to 1 p.m. I'm not only playing good German music and teaching you weird German words, but I will also tell you everything I know about the country. So listen to So Deutsch on 22westmedia.com.
What happened to bless the Lord?
one more
And why
after this.
can't I listen to Beach Center? Well,
Basically,
please
we
switch
have like
hours.
commercials that
You
like
can now listen
promote
to Bless the Lord
stuff
at 2
going on the
p.m.
campus,
Listen to
or
Beach Center
Yeah.
reports about
certain
gospel
shows have
music
their own
at 1
commercial.
p.m.
It's
So
like
after you listen to some
cross-promotion.
boring
That's
sports,
cool.
come listen to Bless the Lord here on 22 West Radio and 22westmedia.com. Have some fun. Adios every Wednesday. Woo!
My name is Rachel Hanna, and I'm a fourth-year journalism major at Long Beach State, and you're listening to 22 West Radio.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Golden Spotlight. I'm your host, Rob Flores, and we're broadcasting live from California State University, Long Beach. And I'm back here with my guests. So, yeah, definitely a profession that my sister is interested in. So I know I take advantage of asking as much questions that would probably relate to my sister, especially. And I like to say that you never know who can be listening, and chances are that there's a person that can relate to this particular guest. They either they studied the certain stuff that they want to take up classes, they're in the profession that they hope to be at in the future. So this is the time where like I try to cram as much as possible into like the 50-something minute show, to where when someone looks at an episode, they're like, wow, I pretty much know like a good amount of this person to get an idea how I can get there.
Yeah.
So another thing that I do is it's a segment where I just call it like the timeline, and it's pretty much the list of jobs leading up to where you are today. Tell us about the jobs.
Oh, this is a good question. Okay, so I guess we'll start with my first job. I'll try to get through it rather quickly. So when I was 16, I applied to my first job, which was a frozen yogurt store. It was called Penguins, for anybody that's familiar with Penguins. Unfortunately, most of them closed down, which makes me very, very sad. I actually worked there on and off for like 6 years. It was always that job I knew I could go back to. I actually ended up managing that store. Fun fact about me, every job I ever had, I always got promoted to manager in some sense. Not every job, but a lot of them. Then after that, I did the serving and bartending thing at a bunch of different restaurants, Mimi's Cafe being one of them, the breakfast spot. Then I got a job at the Melting Pot, which is kind of a fine dining fondue restaurant. In between all that, I also got a job as a military transportation agent where I would call military servicemen and women, and as they transferred from country to country, base to base, I would be their customer service representative as we shipped their household goods overseas. I actually really hated that job. Like I would have to go to work at like 5 a.m. and I would have to start with people in Italy. It was a good learning lesson, but it wasn't for me. Melting Pot was the job that I quit to start actually pursuing makeup full time. I started serving there, then I started bartending there, and then I became the manager of that restaurant, just as like a part-time closing manager. But that was when I kind of had my first like early 20s crisis, not to be dramatic, but I had gotten to that point in my life where like I was 23, which when you're at that age you think you're grown up. So I was like working, making money. Every night I would have to like put on a blazer. I was starting to work really long shifts. I wasn't serving and bartending anymore, which I really enjoyed. I was actually just like doing managerial duties, visiting tables, dealing with complaints. All my friends that I worked there with were now, I mean, I didn't treat them like subordinates, but I became the manager, so I had to kind of like embody, you know, those new responsibilities. And it was just terrible. It was like killing my soul. I knew it wasn't for me, like working every day. I would go to work at 2 o'clock in the afternoon after buying a Chick-fil-A meal and a caramel macchiato from Starbucks. I would go to work for 10 hours, close the restaurant, lock the doors, usually go out to TGI Fridays to drink because that's just kind of like the pattern you get into sometimes at some restaurants. Go to bed, wake up, and do it all over again. And I remember being really, really miserable. But what I tell people is that I'm actually very, very grateful that I was so miserable, because that's when I kind of had that wake-up call, like, listen, if this path doesn't work for you, you can quit. And I was so miserable that I was willing to do anything at the time. So I quit. I hadn't really picked up a makeup brush for a really long time. Like the period from prom, so what's that, like 17, 18 to now I'm about 23-ish. I hadn't really pursued makeup. I mean, I wasn't doing clients on the side or anything like that. And I said, okay, I'm going to take out a credit card. I'm going to buy some foundations, because I had a bunch of other stuff. I just needed like good foundations. And then I signed up and I drove Uber. I drove Uber for a while in my Honda Accord that I still have now. And that was in 2014. So over the past 5 years, I've just hustled. So yeah, that was my random job timeline. And now I'm booked solid. I do mostly brides on the weekends. I'm really proud of like the business I've created. There's a lot of different niches that you can go into with makeup artistry, but I've kind of just gone to like, you know, people celebrating events, quinceañeras, proms, maternity photos, and then weddings is like my main chunk, like bread and butter. I love my brides.
Now, I'm going to go back to that in a bit, but first, I want to ask my question just in case, because time goes by so fast.
Yeah.
There's this two-part question I always ask my guests, and it's where do you see yourself after retirement?
Oh my gosh, I thought you were going to say after 10 years, and I was like so ready for my answer, but you said after retirement. Okay, so that means that like I really retired and I'm like chilling, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. I see myself in a big, beautiful ranch-style home, probably in California or wherever my family and my future children live. I see myself hanging out with my kids and my grandkids and just like having the best freaking time ever. Just loving on them so much. Creating like a really amazing family unit. Traveling a lot. Going on walks because I want to feel young for a really long time. And I want to say that I'm still going to do makeup, which is so weird. I don't know if I'm not allowed to say that, but I don't know. That's part of the good stuff of like choosing your passion for your job, because I think, like, what is retirement? I could just be like a grandma who goes around glaming people. Yeah.
The second part is, what would you like your legacy to be?
Oh, this is such a good question. I would love for my legacy to be that I was a woman that really enriched the makeup artist industry via just my skills, my integrity, my work ethic, my character, and also hopefully by coaching some young men and women who feel like they need some guidance. And I just want, that's what I want my legacy to be.
So going back to you mentioned how you decided to go into makeup and stuff.
Yeah.
My sister, from just seeing how long it took me to go to school, she figured that maybe it wasn't for her because, and this was only because I didn't know at the time that I had learning disabilities. I was in college for quite some time because I suck at math. And eventually a teacher was like, hey, when he decided to share his personal story, where he mentioned that when he was in grad school, a professor told him, hey, all of you should go get tested for learning disabilities. You never know, it's nothing bad, just go give it a shot. And he learned he had learning disabilities, and he didn't know until grad school. It's like, oh, wow. Okay, so nobody told me about that process. I didn't know. Yeah. And so I saved up and got tested and found out, hey, it's like official documentation to say, hey, you're no good at math. Like, oh, okay, now I can get, the help I need to, be like, oh, it's okay, he could get a note taker for this, or he could have these certain services. Yeah. And so, like, I was there for a very, very long time at community college, and I got to the point where, like, I just didn't want to go to family outings or go to see friends, because eventually I'd be the subject of discussion and be like, so-and-so finished school, how come you know? So-and-so moved on to the next degree, how come you not? What? And I'm like, I just came, to, like, socialize, but I didn't come to be the topic of discussion. Totally. And so they'd be like, are you going with us to go see your uncle and stuff like that? I'm like, no. You guys go, I'll stay home. Yeah. That type of stuff. Yeah. And so, in my sister's mind, she's like, no, I'm not going to go ahead and go to school like you and last so many amount of years. It's like, oh, well, it's different. I didn't know about that process of getting tested and stuff. So, in her mind, she sees it as it's going to take a bunch of years to go to college and stuff. And she just didn't know, what to do or nothing like that. But she's always watched these YouTubers, like, what's this other one? Bretman
yes.
Rocks? And
yeah.
these other ones. She's always watching YouTubers. It's like, is that what it was like for you? Did you first start off with, like, watching YouTubers? Or how did you get into it?
Yeah, good question. I kind of want to touch on a couple things you said. One, I can totally relate to feeling like you're the topic of discussion in families. I feel like it happens with school, and I feel like it happens in some instances, like when people ask you, like, do you have a boyfriend? Anyway, so we could talk about that on a different podcast. But I totally feel you. Yeah, they just kind of like look at your life and they want to kind of nitpick and compare you to other people, which I don't think makes a ton of sense. So, I get it. Yes. I started watching YouTube videos when I was 14 years old. Prior to prom, so prom was more like 17, 18. When I was 14 years old, I came home from probably like 8th grade. Or maybe I was a freshman already. And I saw my first YouTube video. It was actually, her name is Marlena Stell, and her YouTube channel is Makeup Geek TV. Now she's actually the CEO of Makeup Geek, and you can find her makeup line at Target. And I followed her career this whole time, which is incredible. Excuse me. And I saw her doing like this green smoky eye, and I loved it. I was like, oh, I want to do that. But I just wanted to be creative. Like, I just wanted to blend eyeshadow like the way she blended eyeshadow. I remember my thoughts at the time being like, oh, but I couldn't make it in that industry. I shouldn't even try because you have to do TV or modeling or movies. And I don't know how to do that. I don't think I could ever do that. Let me just continue with like the status quo. But then, I mean, the whole makeup, cosmetic, beauty industry has like kind of exploded. And I know people have their opinions about like the Kardashians and stuff, but I'm so glad I was born now because I fully took advantage of this time. Because I don't think there was ever really like another decade where makeup artists like me could really like pave a way for themselves. I mean, I'm sure you could have. I'm sure it wasn't impossible. But I think now's the perfect time to be born. Every woman wants glam. And it's just, there's a there's big possibilities for people who want to do it. But yeah, I did start watching YouTube videos, and then I just practiced. I mean, I was like, $20, I'll do your makeup. $40, I'll do your makeup. Yeah.
And did you like? Was it all just from like learning YouTube stuff, or where did you get to the point where maybe there was a certain, I don't know, because I know nothing about makeup, but like maybe there's a certain techniques of something that you're like, oh, it took a special class, or it took this. Like, how did it go about? And tuition and all that.
So I'm fully self-taught. I'm a self-taught makeup artist. I did not go to cosmetology school. I'm really blessed in the state of California. You don't have to have your license to do makeup. In other states, it's different. And I don't mean to sound like pompous or brag at all, but I feel like I really have a gift for what I do, because I just kind of like understood the principles and the artistry behind makeup, like, naturally. Now, that's not to say that I don't take inspiration and I don't continue my education by, watching courses, watching other YouTube videos of other professional makeup artists, practicing. I'm not always 100% thrilled with my work, but I did not go the route of, quote, professional training, licensure. I just really kind of have like a knack for it, and I just went for it, and it worked out.
So, I like we were mentioning during the commercial, you mentioned like how did I find you and stuff, and like how I find all my guests pretty much is I just look up, Los Angeles, or I'll look up Long Beach, since our school is in Long Beach, and then I'll just add the profession to the Google search, and your website popped up, and it was like, super professional and all that stuff, and obviously websites, it's not an easy thing to create, and all that stuff, and it's like, it's just so professional, and there's like, all these, things on there. Tell us about the site.
Thank you. Okay, question for you. Did your sister tell you to plug in makeup artists, or did you think of that yourself?
I thought of it myself.
Oh,
I figured,
very cool.
like, I need to find a way to like get her to realize, like, where can she start? Just to get an idea of where to,
That's
look at
awesome.
things.
Well, thank you for visiting my website. I worked really hard on that. I actually made it myself. On Squarespace, though, this is not an ad for Squarespace, I wish it was, but it's very easy to make a beautiful website on Squarespace. I literally sound like I'm sponsored right now, and this is an ad for your show, but it's not. I wish it was. Thank you. I worked really hard on my website. I've kind of given it a facelift. Well, one big facelift. I've always been really good at like design. I taught myself Photoshop. Do you remember having a MySpace and a Zanga? Either of the two?
A MySpace, yeah, years ago.
Okay, well, there were like all these, kind of like blogspot type sites. And when I was younger, like, oh my gosh, 11, 12, I'm not a coder by any means, and I'm not like good at HTML, but at the time when you had a MySpace and a Zanga, my MySpace looked the best. Because I learned how to HTML. But I didn't. You don't need to learn coding like that for Squarespace. But that's just, I feel like it helped me a little bit. But yeah, thank you so much. I worked really hard on that website. I'm glad you thought it was beautiful and professional.
Another thing is too, like, how did you go about picking Squarespace? Because I know that like the only one that I knew of at first was WordPress. But did anybody point out like, oh, pick that one? Or
good question. I worked with a web designer probably 4 years ago. And she made a website for me, and I was very grateful, and she used WordPress. When I would go in the back end of WordPress and try to edit it myself, I was lost. Like, I couldn't make any customizations that I wanted to make. I just had to work with whatever framework she put, and I could change, like, text or add a picture. And I didn't like that, because I like to get really creative, and 2 years later, I wanted to give my business a complete facelift. So Squarespace was the next best bet, and it did take a learning curve. I remember staying up a couple nights until like 4 a.m. just learning it, just like learning the pages, learning how to move around the different templates. But once I learned the framework of how to use it, it was so easy to like plug in what I wanted. And to this day, I'm like hopping on there and like switching things all the time. It's so easy to use. For me, at least. Yeah, WordPress? No.
Yeah, I'm still learning.
Yeah, try
that's right now,
Squarespace.
that's what I've been using.
If you need help, you can totally let me know.
Yeah, because like I said, like it's not an easy thing. You know, there's these like even just I've always think the other feature that's cool is like a carousel when like.
Oh yeah,
you know,
for images.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, WordPress. Like I said, I feel like I'm pretty savvy at design, and I can look at like something on the internet and kind of figure it out. WordPress had me lost, like completely lost. So if I could give you any advice, like when you go home tonight, just play. Don't put any pressure on yourself because that'll probably make it more difficult. But just play with Squarespace, and I bet in a couple of days you'll be like, oh yeah, I could totally do this. The carousels, the different kinds of galleries, so easy to use. So easy to use. Sponsor us, Squarespace.
But yeah, you know, you mentioned Photoshop. You know, that's thank goodness for the requirement of having to take an elective in high school. Because I ended up having to take Intro to Photography, and I was able to get a little bit of a sampler of how to use that. And journalism also helped with like discovering like you should have something online. Like I forgot which professor, or probably several professors have said this before. I always hear this where they're like, you never know if all of a sudden you could bump into somebody in like an elevator or something that's like in a profession that you are interested in, or you like look up to them or something. Or, they're like you really want to leave a good impression, and you might just have the time limit that's of an actual elevator ride.
Yeah.
And you want to like be able to have something to show them, and be like, oh look at all my stuff.
That first impression.
Yeah. So it's like.
Yeah.
How did you go about like figuring out like how to promote yourself and stuff? Because like when you look at your website, you have like all these things like, oh, like this is how I book appointments and all that stuff, and it's like, how do you go about time management and all that stuff?
Yeah, I love talking about this. Actually, I feel like paired with my kind of interest in artistry, but not like financial business, but business, at least as far as I can apply it to myself and being self-employed, that actually kind of comes really naturally to me too. Like I just have the type of personality where I'm a self-starter, and I can kind of take advantage of whatever environment is in front of me. So when it came to social media, I just kind of knew that I definitely need to take advantage of this. Like obviously you found me. A lot of people have different opinions about the use of hashtags, but I use all 30 for every single post, and I actually book. I'll say majority here because I think that's true actually. I book the majority of my brides from Instagram alone. So some people don't even need a website, and you really don't need one, but like you said, with that first impression, it's good to have that. Because I feel like Instagram is more casual. I'm a little more goofy on there. I don't always post strictly my bridal work, but if you go to my website, it's like very clear. And then kind of back to furthering my education and taking courses. Because the makeup artistry came really naturally to me, I actually most often invest in branding courses, business courses, personal development courses, because I feel like that enriches my business more than taking a class on how to do makeup. I actually teach classes. I teach master classes. I've done one. That was a really big accomplishment for me. So yeah, I just learned. I love to learn. I'm like really eager to just learn a lot about business and how to, I feel like professionalism has kind of taken like a new wave where online businesses and creative brands, your clients aren't necessarily looking for you to be like a quote professional brand, meaning like more dry, more, in the box. I think that at least in my industry, you are free to just like be yourself. And when you share your personality, you actually end up attracting the clients that you actually want to work with. That's kind of like little magic that I've kind of discovered. And that's probably not true for like hiring somebody for blinds and hardwood floors and stuff like that. But yeah, I've just dived into different courses. Like there's this couple, they're called Hustle and Flow. And they fly all over the United States doing this incredible course that is geared towards wedding photographers. But I had been following them on Instagram for a really long time, and I knew that if I went to that course, I could apply everything they said to my business. And these are pretty like high high-ticket seminars, 2 days. I flew to Orlando, Florida, and I learned so much. Like, I just have an eye for people who really offer, like, value. So I go, and I learn, and then I apply it.
Another thing I try to take advantage of when I have, the different type of professional individual here is tell us about, your experiences. So it's like rejection, tips for like how to handle, facing rejection.
This is such a good question because that's actually what I was talking about, full circle, when I was talking about, the light and the dark side of choosing something you're super passionate about as your career. What I'm learning is that you have to have an identity outside of your business, so that you're kind of able to not take those things so personally. And there's not really like a 5-step like healing process that I can take you through, but for me, I'm like a very emotional person, and I like to talk about like healing and like, showing your emotions and stuff like that. So I feel like if something like that happens to you, just like, really ask yourself, like, how did that make you feel? For me, I am my own worst critic, so what I've found is that I can immediately go into like, well, what could you have done better, Patricia Castro? What could you have done better? And then it kind of just keeps me from like empathizing with myself and realizing that like it's just makeup. At the end of the day, it's just makeup, and some people have different taste, and some people, there's just a plethora of reasons for, things that maybe your client didn't expect, and they think you're a wonderful person, but they didn't like the makeup. And it's just important to have a lot of compassion and empathy for yourself, to have balance in your life so that you have an identity outside of your business. Because if you're super tied into your business, then failure in your business means that you're a failure, and that's terrible. I hope, if I could prevent anything, I think it would be that. And then and remaining professional. That was the third thing I wanted to mention. Being a balanced individual and having integrity and building character, so that when things like that happen, because I've seen a lot of instances where makeup artists who feel a little bit triggered or feel a little insulted actually get a little bit defensive, or they say, just things like, well, I'm a makeup artist, I know what looks good on you, or, any variation of that statement. And that kind of breaks my heart too, because I don't really vibe with that reaction. I would rather come from a place of like understanding and just knowing that we just weren't the right fit, and that's okay. I hope you find somebody that you really love.
Time goes by so fast,
I
but
know.
I also want to, I was wondering, by any chance when Halloween time comes, do you do like, like Dia de los Muertos and all that stuff like that?
So this year I decided not to do makeup on Halloween. I had just done, this is silly, but I had just done a yard sale, and I actually sold like too much of my stuff, because even I wanted to do like face paint, but I sold I sold a bunch of my stuff, like my makeup that can get messy. I haven't done like a full day of bookings of Halloween makeup for like 2 or 3 years, but one year I did, like, this couple came in, I turned them into pirates, and then this younger lady come in, she wanted a deer. I did Dia de los Muertos, and that was beautiful. I love it. I'm really good at it, to toot my own horn. Toot toot. I do like full face paint, jewels around the eyes. It takes a long time. It's very, detail intensive, but it's so fun. I do love it, but I've kind of gone more towards like glamorous bridal makeup. So I feel like this year I thought about it and I was like, I don't really want to do that this year. But I think it's amazing. People who do that artistic skull, cool makeup, I think it's really cool.
Very cool. We're down to like our last 5 minutes, but let's see, I try to, just in general, like, what tips do you have for someone that, wants to pursue the field that you're in at the moment and, they don't know where to start?
Yeah, good question. So if you're interested in pursuing this field, I'll just say makeup artistry in particular, I would say dive in. Don't wait until you feel perfect to try. You have to take action, even if it's like messy action, meaning, you know, get friends and family and just start doing their makeup, start taking photos. Have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously, because if you take it too seriously, you're probably going to burn yourself out before you know, see the fruits of your labor. I would say write down why you want to do this, because one thing that I'm constantly learning is that if my business is self-focused, so if I'm focused on like how much money I'm making, how many bookings I'm getting, if my website looks good, like me, my passion, my drive, my integrity, it just goes downhill. You have to be in a place of really wanting to serve, because it's a service industry. You're not here to just, you know, get a bunch of attention and be Instagram famous and maybe book the Kardashians one day. I mean, you have to love your client. Like, you have to really be in the business of giving them the best experience that they could have ever imagined, especially on their wedding day. Like, I think that's why I love bridal makeup so much. A lot of makeup artists tell me, like, how do you do it? Like, you're the pickiest, it's so early, this, that, and the other, but I really don't feel like that at all. I love weddings. I love brides. You know, there's different experiences. Not all of them are like 5-star, amazing, love you, I wish I could go to your wedding, let's be friends forever. But a good handful of them are, and I'm very, very grateful for those experiences. So yeah, go for it. Don't wait till you're perfect. Just try and write down why you love this. Like, what's your mission? And then just go for it.
Still have like 4 minutes. I like to hear also, like, how did you get to the point where, like, you know, you have your own workspace, you know?
Yeah.
That's huge.
Good question. There's some pictures on my website. Can I say my website?
Yeah.
www.patriciacastromakeup.com. That's so cool. Okay, so this was pure blessing, pure luck. So like I said, I quit my job at the Melting Pot as a restaurant manager in November of 2014. And I had not picked up a makeup brush. So there was no like transition to like half doing makeup, half having this restaurant job. It really was like, okay, I'm going to quit restauranting, quit managing, and I'm just going to go for it. That's why I had to drive Uber, because I live with my parents currently, and they're wonderful. And like I said, I'm an only child, so I'm very blessed that, I mean, they'd probably take care of me forever, but I really want to take care of them sometime soon. So I didn't want to mooch off them, and I didn't want them to worry so much about, you know, some of my needs and Target runs. So I drove Uber. I lost track of what I was saying. What was the question?
It was, how did you get to the point where you have your own workspace?
Yes, thank you so much. So, I quit my job at the restaurant November 2014. Drove Uber. I just jumped into it. I was doing makeovers for my friends for $20. I would go on websites like Model Mayhem and find photographers who were at like my same level of wedding photography, and I would work for free, and we would find like a male model and a female model, and we'd get a dress from a local boutique, and I'd drive all the way out to Calabasas and Malibu, and we'd all do a free photo shoot. And it was like called Time for Trade. So like I'd get photos, the photographer would get photos, and these models just wanted to be models, and I would do that quite a bit. In fact, my portfolio for the first few years, they looked like they were in love, but all those models didn't even know each other, which is so fascinating. Okay, so then my studio is located in Redondo Beach at the Crown Plaza Hotel. It's a beautiful hotel. I know one of the catering managers, the main catering manager, thank you to Cherie, and they were doing some remodeling, and there was this beautiful room on the lobby floor that actually used to be the cardio room, the gym room, and if you saw my studio now, you'd never believe it. But in the summer of 2015, she asked me, along with a couple other vendors, it was a DJ and another wedding coordinator at the time, if we wanted to rent this space, share the room, and pay rent. And I said, holy crap, yes. I did not have solid clientele yet. I did not have the money to pay rent yet, but I knew that it was a risk that I 100% needed to take, because at the time I was just inviting my first few brides to my living room, and I have a pit bull. She's a wonderful pit bull. I live with my parents. You know, it just wasn't the right environment, so I knew I just needed to do it, and I've been there since June 2015, and I feel so, so blessed, because it's the best location ever, and I got really lucky there to have a space and call it my little salon.
How does your family react? Like, are they ever like, you're so busy, why do you gotta like relax and all that
Yeah,
stuff?
honestly, I'm really proud of myself for working so hard because, not to say that they didn't believe in me, I think it was more like I didn't really believe in myself. Like, I remember thinking, if I could just make $2,000 a month, I've made it. And without dropping numbers here, I've made much, much more than $2,000. And I say that, being humble, of course, but I really built my business to like actually have a sustainable income, and that's something I want to teach other artists in the industry because, you shouldn't be breaking your back and providing impeccable service for pennies. Because a lot of the time, if you don't kind of know, kind of just know like the industry standard, one of the things I kind of think is you might end up paying your clients to do their makeup. Because just like you said when we were talking about your sister and the FX makeup kits are very, very expensive. Traveling is expensive. Taking care of your body, being healthy, it's all part of your personal business. So, I am busy on the weekends. I can't make it to a lot of events, but it's honestly a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I love having the weekdays off. I can like go to the beach, go to Target, run errands, and the world just feels empty. But yeah, they're really proud of me. They're super proud of me. Sometimes I'm like, oh, you guys are proud of me? I can't believe it. Because to me, everybody says, oh, you're so successful, you're teaching now, this, that, and the other. And to me, like, I'm still like in it. Like, I'm, I don't see them the way they see me. So when they give me, actually, words of affirmation is my love language. So when they give me words of affirmation, it really means the world to me.
Well, time goes by so fast.
It does, Rob. This was really fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. But once again, how can people contact you?
Yes. Okay, so my Instagram is at Patricia Castro Makeup. That's Patricia Castro, like Fidel, no relation, makeup. Also www.patriciacastromakeup.com. I love creating connections on Instagram. I know social media can be really overwhelming, but I really actually love to use it to be social. So if any of you guys have any interest in this career or you just kind of want to get to know me better, DM me. I will 100% respond to you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Thanks, Rob.